Hi learners and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to help you ace another topic from class 7 science nutrition in plants, the entire chapter in one shot, which will include NCERT reading as well as marking of important points with some tips and tricks. It will be really beneficial if you sit with your NCERT and mark along with me to make the maximum out of this session. So let's get started. This is the introduction of the chapter. So this talks about what are the basic components of food, that is carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. They are the main five components of food. And all these constitute a balanced diet in proper amounts because each of these components play a different role in our body and essential ones. So all these together, we call them nutrients. So all living organisms require food, but for what? Without food they cannot do repairs, carry on vital functions of the body. So plants, they can make their food themselves, but animals, including humans, us, we cannot. Why? Because plants contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment which aids in photosynthesis. But humans, we don't have such pigments, and many other plants, they don't have such pigments. So humans, they depend directly or indirectly on plants. Directly herbivores, indirectly carnivores, omnivores, etc. So our basic form of food, our baseline for food, plants. And that is why plants are very, very, very important. So, mode of nutrition in plants. So, plants are the only organisms. They are the only organisms on earth which can prepare food for themselves by using raw materials like water, carbon dioxide, and some minerals. So, all these raw materials are present in the surroundings. Now, the nutrients, they enable living organisms to build their bodies, to grow, repair damaged parts of the bodies, and provide energy. There are four important points and they can be asked. So, build their bodies, grow, repair, and provide energy. Nutrition is the mode of taking food by an organism and its utilization. This is very important because nutrition is not just eating food or consuming food, it is intake as well as utilization. Both of these constitute nutrition. Now, there may be many modes of nutrition. One mode is autotrophic nutrition. Auto means self, trophos means nourishment. Autotrophic nutrition. It is when plants, you can take the example of plants, they can make their own food, they're self-dependent. Animals and other organisms, they're heterotrophs. Heterotrophic nutrition is their mode of nutrition. They depend on food prepared by the autotroph. Heteros means other, and trophos, we saw, it means nourishment. So autotrophs, they depend on themselves for their food. They can prepare their food. Whereas heterotrophs, they depend on autotrophs or plants. For example, animal depends on plants. Now, there are so many questions here which we will slowly answer. Now, this is a good question. Why can't our body make food? Because we cannot perform photosynthesis. The process by which we get our food is photosynthesis, directly or indirectly. It is photosynthesis, and this is only done by chlorophyll containing organisms, and that is plants. So that is why we cannot make our own food. We are dependent on these chlorophyll containing organisms or plants. Now, photosynthesis. This is the master process that helps us eat our food. So leaves are the food factories of plants. This can be asked for a 1-mark question. Leaves are the food factories of plants. Why? Because it contains chlorophyll and so it can perform photosynthesis or prepare its own food. So synthesis of food occurs in leaves. So all raw materials must reach there. All the raw materials must reach there. Water and minerals are present in the soil. We saw that raw materials are present in the surroundings. So water and minerals present in the soil, carbon dioxide is present in the air. So all raw materials we have, but how do they reach the leaves? We saw in Circulation in Animals and Plants, chapter 11, that plants contain pipe-like structures or vessels or vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. Xylem carries these water and minerals to the leaf, whereas phloem carries the food or the food that the leaf produces to various parts of the plant. And the trick was phloem food, FF pronunciation, phloem food. And they're vascular tissues, and the question is asked here, how does water and minerals reach the leaves? It is through this tissue known as xylem, which carries water and minerals. So carbon dioxide is taken through tiny pores known as stomata, which is present on the leaves. We know this, stomata is present on the leaves. It takes in carbon dioxide. So they are also surrounded by guard cells like this, like kidney beans kind. This pore is stomata. This is actually stomatal opening. You can call it stomatal opening. They are your guard cells. This is a very rough figure. You can refer to the proper figure in your textbook, which can be asked for diagram-based questions. Now, water and minerals are transported by leaves by vessels which run as pipes. Yes, as I had mentioned, they are known as xylem. And the branches, leaves, all over. This tissue is carrying the water all over, just like blood vessels carry blood throughout our body, and they form a continuous path or passage for the nutrients to reach the leaf. So yes, we will learn, and we have covered a video for chapter 11 as well. You can check out that too. The question here, what about why can only leaves prepare food? Because only they contain chlorophyll. Only leaves contain chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is key in photosynthesis. So that is why only leaves prepare their food. But there can be other green parts of the plant, for sometimes green branches, sometimes stem. Even they may contain chlorophyll. Even they also carry photosynthesis in them, but in very normal, very little amounts. But leaves are abundant in stomata and chlorophyll, so they are the main food factories. So yes, this is the answer to whatever I was telling. The leaves have green colored pigment called chlorophyll. Just to connect, blood contains a red pigment. Blood contains a red pigment which binds with oxygen to carry it all through the body, and this is called hemoglobin. This becomes important in chapter 11. This was just additional information. Now, so plants contain chlorophyll, which help in photosynthesis. So they capture the energy of sunlight. Photosynthesis happens because of sunlight, chlorophyll, so many factors. And this chlorophyll in the leaves helps to capture energy from the sunlight, and this is used to synthesize or prepare food from carbon dioxide and water. I can put this in one equation. This whole thing can be put in one arrow equation, which I will share with you soon. So the synthesis occurs in the presence of sunlight. This is the main thing here. Sunlight is important. Chlorophyll can absorb or capture the energy from sun. So the primary important factor is sunlight, and that's why the name photosynthesis, because photo means light. This is photo. Photo means light, and synthesis means combine. So photosynthesis, we are combining light to prepare food. So chlorophyll, sunlight, carbon dioxide, water, all are necessary to carry out photosynthesis. Now it's a unique process on Earth. This is a unique process, yes, because we're using so many raw materials which are available to the plants in presence of a pigment which is producing food, which in turn everyone is using to survive. It's a unique process. This also can be asked. Photosynthesis is a unique process, justify. This can be asked. So the solar energy is captured by leaves and stored in plants in the form of food. So solar energy is the energy which we are going to convert to chemical energy to store as food. Thus, sun is the ultimate source of energy for all living organisms. This can be asked as such. Explain for 2 marks, 3 marks, 5 marks. It depends on how. Then you can accordingly write how much you want. But the idea should be very clear, and the concept, if the concept is clear, then this becomes very easy for you to justify. Let's move ahead. As I had said, an equation. Before that, let's complete this. So in the absence of photosynthesis, there will be no food, which means no life. No photosynthesis, no life. No sunlight, no life. No chlorophyll, no life. So the survival of almost all living organisms, directly or indirectly. Herbivores, directly, indirectly, carnivores. Or you can say heterotrophs, insectivorous. We will cover that in upcoming slides. And oxygen is essential. Now, photosynthesis has two byproducts, major byproducts. Photosynthesis. One is the energy, or I'll just simply write it as food. You can say starch. Okay, starch, food, which is very important for us. And oxygen, which we breathe, which is even more important for us. Oxygen and food, the most important things for us to live, they are the products of photosynthesis. That is why photosynthesis is most unique and important process. And this happens because of sunlight. So this is another point for the previous question, that is sunlight or sun, ultimate source of energy for all living organisms. So it's produced during photosynthesis. So life would be impossible on Earth without this process, or even you can say without sunlight. So during photosynthesis, chlorophyll containing cell of the leaves, they, in presence of sunlight, use carbon dioxide and water to synthesize carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is converted to starch, as I have written. It's converted into starch. It is stored as starch. In plants, this food, or this energy, is stored as starch, and in humans, it is stored as something different. Now, this is the equation, as I had said. Carbon dioxide, you can correlate with this paragraph. It will be very easy. So, during photosynthesis, chlorophyll containing cells, that is in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, in presence of these two, sunlight and chlorophyll, we have carbon dioxide or starch and oxygen. But what are the raw materials? Carbon dioxide and what? You can write 6CO2, or before I balance the equation, CO2 plus H2O in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives me C6H12O6. This is a glucose or starch or my energy form, and oxygen. Now, this is not a balanced equation. You will learn balancing equations in higher classes. So the equation after I balance all molecules will be 6CO2, 6H2O gives C6H6O6 and 6 oxygen. So this is my main equation for photosynthesis. For respiration, the equation is same. It is reversed, but there is no presence of sunlight and chlorophyll in respiration. Now, so this was the gist of this entire paragraph. That is, photosynthesis has two byproducts, food, oxygen, major products, and both of them, without either of them, life will not be possible on Earth. And this equation is very important, can be asked. And carbohydrate is stored as starch. And presence of starch indicates occurrence of photosynthesis. So starch is also a carbohydrate. You can do this with iodine test. Iodine test. You can perform this iodine test and you will find it turns blue-black in starch or chlorophyll containing parts, because the chlorophyll containing parts have undergone photosynthesis, which means they produced starch. And iodine test, how do we test? If you put few drops of iodine on starch, it turns blue-black. Now there can be leaves. You must have seen leaves, red color, orange color, different colors you can find. But how do they how does photosynthesis take place in such plants? They also have chlorophyll, they have green plants, but it is masked by those pigments. The large amount of red, brown, and other pigments, they mask the green color. So photosynthesis takes place in those green parts. There is an activity given in the book. You can go through that activity. Now, sometimes you will see some slimy green patches on ponds or some stagnant water. So they are formed by growth of organisms which are known as algae. Now, algae are green, they contain chlorophyll, they can prepare their own food by photosynthesis. Now, carbohydrate is not the only thing produced. Synthesis, there are other components. So synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates is what we will see. Now, carbohydrates will synthesize through photosynthesis, but carbohydrates give which all minerals, or not minerals, elements. I have carbon, I have hydrogen, and I have oxygen. As I said, C6H12O6. This is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen I'm getting from my photosynthesis. But they are used to synthesize some other components of food such as protein and fat. But proteins, they are nitrogenous substances. Proteins, they are nitrogenous substances. They contain nitrogen. So from here, I'm not getting nitrogen from this starch. I need to get it from somewhere else. Now we know that the air contains around 78% nitrogen, which means there's so much nitrogen in our atmosphere. But the way they just take in carbon dioxide, they cannot take nitrogen. So plants cannot absorb nitrogen just from the air in this form, the way it is present in gaseous form. So soil, it contains certain bacteria which convert this into a usable form. They release it into the soil, and we know root is absorbing these minerals from the soil. So this is how the plants get their nitrogen. Now, which is that bacteria? It's an important name. Rhizobium bacteria is one bacteria. We will see how it forms a relationship with the roots and then gives it nitrogen. But there may be other bacteria in other plants. But we also have fertilizers rich in nitrogen. So when you put it to the soil, it's in a usable form, and so plants will absorb this. So plants can then synthesize other components such as protein and fat. It has all its components. It gets nitrogen also. It will synthesize proteins as well. Now, plants also use this along with water. If it is soluble, it will absorb water. Xylem will transport it throughout the plant. Now, this is the information given in the blue boxes of the textbook, which is also important. Now, what are cells? Cells are the basic structural and functional unit of organisms. All organisms are made of cells. That is the basic structure. They may be unicellular, one cell maybe, they may be multicellular, maybe many cells. So they're like buildings are made of bricks. Organisms, living organisms are made of tiny units called cells. And they can be seen under the microscope only. And as I said, some organisms may be made only of one cell, known as unicellular. Now, cell is enclosed by a cell membrane like this. Can be a cell membrane, inside which you will have a dense nucleus. You will have a nucleus. And then you have cytoplasm, which is the inside, whatever matter, okay, the fluid, or for example, it depends. It's like a jelly-like substance. Yes, it's a jelly-like substance. It's called the cytoplasm. You have nucleus and cell membrane. But plants, this is mostly, you see this kind of a structure in animal cells. In plants, you have another outer covering also you will have, known as cell wall. Inside the cell wall, you will have your cell membrane, then nucleus, then cytoplasm. But plants have cell wall. Humans, animals, we don't have this cell wall. One more point, that besides leaf, photosynthesis takes place in green parts of the plant because they have chlorophyll. That is important. So the green stems, branches, etc., they also take, photosynthesis takes place. But abundantly chlorophyll is present on the leaf. So that has maximum productivity of energy, glucose, oxygen, etc. Now, desert plants. Have you seen desert plants? Do they have leaves like how we see in normal terrestrial plants? Desert, you may have seen the cactus. It has like this spicule, spines kind. They don't have leaves. The spine is actually a form modified leaf. This is actually a modified leaf. So they have scale or spine-like leaves to reduce loss of water by transpiration. Transpiration we had covered in chapter 11 video in which we discussed circulation and excretion in animals and plants. So we know that evaporation is faster when we increase the surface area. And so leaves have a surface like this. So water, they release water by transpiration and it is easily evaporated. But desert plants have to conserve water. They can't lose water because in desert water scarcity is there, we know. So they want to conserve water. They don't want transpiration. So they reduce their surface area. Now they have spine-like leaves like this. So from where the water will evaporate? There's so less surface area and we know we need more surface area for evaporation. So these plants have green stems which carry out photosynthesis. Rather than leaves, they have the stems which carry photosynthesis. Now there are other modes of nutrition in plants. So some plants, they don't have chlorophyll. They're as good as humans. We don't have chlorophyll, but we want nutrition. These plants don't have chlorophyll, but they want nutrition. So they adopt heterotrophic mode of nutrition just as we do, animals, heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So anyways, everyone is going to go back to plants at the end because only they have chlorophyll. Autotrophs, they prepare their food. So there can be plants known as cuscuta, also known as amarbel. So they are like yellow tubular structures, twining around stems and branches. So they don't have chlorophyll, but they want their nutrition. So they take food ready-made from the plants, just like how we do. Okay, so plant on it, the plant is then known as a host. It is providing nutrition, just like we have a host to host a party, for example. They provide us with all food. We go and we eat that food. So here the plant is our host, and this cuscuta or amabel or any organism who lives on that, attaches onto the host, gets its nutrition from there, is known as a parasite. We might have heard of parasites, leeches, for example. They suck our blood. We lose our nutrients. It deprives it of all its valuable nutrients. So it is known as a parasite. We know other animals, for example, mosquitoes, right? They deprive us of our blood, our nutrients, and because they cannot prepare their own food. So one form we saw was parasitic plants. Now insectivorous plants. So these plants, they trap insect and digest them. So plants, they may be green, they may be of some other color, but they trap insects, insectivorous plants. This is the diagram, the image. So this mechanism of insectivorous plants, it actually can be asked for maybe 3 marks, maybe 5 marks, then you will have to draw the diagram as well. So let's get a clear concept. So we have a picture. It's like a pitcher. Can you see this? It's like a pitcher. You know, we fill water in somewhat like pitchers. It's like a pitcher-like structure, not picture. Picture? No, this is like an image, not picture. It is a pitcher, like a jar, like a jug sort of. Now, it is modified part of the leaf, and the apex of the leaf forms a lid, which can open and close the mouth of this pitcher. Now, inside the pitcher, we have hair, which are directed downwards because our insect, it will come. It should go down in the pitcher, right? It should not fly. So these hairs, this insect is going to get entangled in the hair. And then it will be pushed downwards and it will secrete some digestive juices. And then this pitcher will secrete digestive juices and the insect will be digested with the help of these juices. Just like in humans, we have so many digestive juices which help in digestion. So in this way, these kind of plants, they get their nutrition. Now moving on to saprotrophs. This is a type of heterotrophic nutrition. So you might have seen packet of mushrooms. Mushrooms, they are saprotrophs. They're like fluffy umbrella-like patches rotting in the wood. You must have heard of fungus. So there is an activity given in which you have to leave a bread for rot or keep it out in the air, or maybe you can moisten the bread and leave it like that. You will see these thread-like structures. This is actually fungi or fungus. These organisms, yeah, they are cotton-like threads, greenish, brownish color. Now, they have a different mode. Now, they secrete digestive juices on the dead and decaying matter. Dead and they are not scavengers. Scavengers are not, this is different. Scavengers and saprotrophic nutrition is different. So, saprotroph, they release certain juices on dead and decaying matter. They convert it into a solution. They are microscopic organisms. On top, you can see green patches there. But if you see from microscope, you can see it in a much detailed way. From outside, all you can see is this. But they look like this. They have spore, they have sporangia. There's a detailed explanation you can read through on the internet as well. But all we need to know for now is that saprotrophs, they feed on dead and decaying organisms. And they secrete juices, convert into a solution. And this is their mode of nutrition. Most important point in saprophytes is that dead and decaying organisms, they feed on these. This is a defining feature of saprotrophic nutrition. And such plants which adopt this nutrition are saprotrophs. I hope you all understood this. Now, this is a little bit more. That is fungi. You must have seen it grows on pickle, leather, clothes, that are left in hot and humid weather. So this is just an example. You can read. Now, in rainy season, they spoil so many things, so much of moisture available. So they will attack. And fungal spores, yes, as I mentioned, spores, they are generally present in the air. So this around you, you will have so many fungal spores like this, so many. They're microscopic. You cannot see them. These spores are microscopic. When they attack and form such green patches, only then you can see. So these microscopic organisms, they land on such wet and warm things. As I said, you can keep a moist bread. So wet and warm things, then they germinate on this, they grow. So that is why when they grow, they will, reproduce, multiply, and they form this fungus-like structures. Now, how can you prevent them? You can use airtight containers. You can, so this will stop moisture from attacking. There are many such ways you can apply. You must be seeing in your house as well. Pickles, we store them in airtight containers. We don't let water go in pickles. So many ways are adopted to avoid this fungal attack. Now, some organisms, they live together. They share their nutrients, not like parasites. Parasite will go on the plant. This is the plant. My parasite is going. It is going to deprive this of all its nutrients. This plant, my host, doesn't have any benefit out of this. My host doesn't have any benefit. But my parasite is very happy because it's getting all its nutrients. But in symbiotic relationship, both the components are very happy because both of them are getting some or the other benefit. I will show you what benefit they get. So in symbiotic relation, we have an example, very common example, lichens. You may call it lichens also, but lichens. So they are chlorophyll containing partner we have. One chlorophyll containing partner. So which is an alga or algae. And we have fungus. Fungus doesn't have chlorophyll. It is saprophytic in nature. Algae has chlorophyll. It can make its own food, etc. Now algae is self-dependent. Why does it need fungus? There is a reason for that. Now certain fungi, they live in the roots of trees. They live in roots of trees. So in turn, the tree provides nutrients, not like that cuscuta. Cuscuta will go, cuscuta is happy, but the host tree is upset. But in this, the tree, in the roots, we have fungus. Okay, fungus is there in the root. Certain fungi, not all, certain types. They will give, help it to take water, nutrients from the soil. So this fungus is helping tree is happy. Now tree will give it nutrition. It will provide nutrients. Tree is preparing its food. So this kind of a relationship is very nice because both of them are benefited. They are helping each other. This is how we need to also live with people. But when we compare it with the parasitic nutrition, there is only benefit for the parasite. The host is upset. It is losing all its nutrients. One more very important example is lichens. So we have a chlorophyll containing partner. Now in lichens, the chlorophyll containing partner, which is algae and fungus, they live together. The fungus provides shelter to the algae and water, minerals, all raw materials my fungus will provide. Because algae doesn't have to take the trouble of getting all this from the environment. Fungus will say, I will give you all raw materials, but in return, you have to give me the prepared food. So algae gets all raw materials from fungus. It provides shelter also. Then in turn, with those raw materials, it prepares food. Then both of them can have the food. So this is symbiotic relationship. And this is very beneficial, and that's why many organisms adopt this whenever such situation is favored. Now in soil, we know xylem tissue, roots, they absorb nutrients, water, etc. So once absorbed, if the root is, if it's not replenished, what is replenished? For example, my root, if I have a glass of water, I'm drinking water, drinking water, drinking water. So the water will get over, but I want more water. So I'll just fill more water. I'm replenishing the water in this glass. So only then I can keep myself sustained. So in soil also, I want to replenish all my nutrients so that the plant can sustain, keep getting its nutrients. How does this happen? So farmers spread manure, fertilizers in the field. These are rich in these minerals, nutrients, so my soil is getting replenished. So plants, they absorb the minerals from soil, so the amount keeps declining. But these fertilizers and manures, they contain plant nutrients like nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. It is NPK. This is a very familiar, most familiarly used fertilizer manure, and this contains nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, NPK. So this is like a fertilizer or manure, and these nutrients, they're added from time to time to enrich the soil, and we can grow plants, keep them healthy only if we fulfill the nutrient requirements. Only then can it function. It's the same for any organism like humans. Only if you're getting all nutrients on time, we will be healthy. So to keep plants healthy, to keep making food and oxygen, nutrients have to be provided. Now, crops require a lot of nitrogen to make proteins, of course. And as I said, there are certain fungi in the soil, or bacteria, not fungi, bacteria, who fix nitrogen in a usable form known as nitrogen fixation. And this rhizobium, it can convert atmospheric nitrogen into a soluble form easily, but it can't make its own food. So it lives in roots, just like a symbiotic relationship. So it's a symbiotic relationship wherein the rhizobium cannot cook its own food or make its own food. So it will go to the root of the plant. Plant will provide food. In turn, rhizobium will fix nitrogen for the plant to make proteins. So this is usually found in legumes. Legumes are the plants like pulse plants like gram, peas, moong, beans, leguminous plants or legumes. So they get nitrogen. In turn, these legumes give food. So pulses, as I said, pulses or dals, they are obtained from these leguminous plants. Now, and one more way is farmers, they put apply fertilizers, manures, which will replenish the amount of these minerals. So in this chapter, what we have covered is that most of the plants are autotrophs, because we saw certain plants were saprophytic, insectivorous, etc. Only few plants, the majority of the plants are autotrophs, but few plants they become parasitic. They need nutrition from other organisms. Now, all animals are heterotrophs. All animals, they are heterotrophs. They depend on plants and other animals for food. For example, herbivores, they get their food from plants. Herbivores are food of carnivores. But again, the chain is going back to plants. So a question they have asked is, can insectivorous plants be called partial heterotrophs? You will answer this question if all concepts of what are heterotrophs, what are autotrophs, what are insectivorous plants are clear. So I hope this was a fruitful session and you enjoyed this session. If you did, do hit the like button, share this video and subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss out on any videos. I hope I helped you in learning and acing this topic. Until then, see you soon. Bye bye. Take care.